in-depth episode dives into the horrifying life and crimes of John Wayne Gacy, the infamous killer clown. We will unravel the mystery behind his public facade and private monstrosity, covering the disturbing elements of his early life, the double life he led as a seemingly respectable citizen, and the harrowing details of his arrest and trial. Through this exploration, we seek to understand how Gacy eluded justice for so long and what drove him to commit his unimaginable acts. Viewer discretion is advised.
Gacy was convicted of murdering more people than anyone else in U.S. history.
He's one of the most notorious serial killers in history. Gacy was convicted of killing 33 young men and teenage boys between 1972 and 1978.
Before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. The early shadows. Our story begins not with a monster, but with a child. A boy born into a world of shadows on March 17, 1942. John Wayne Gacy grew up in a modest home in Chicago, the second of 3 children, and only son of John Stanley Gacy and Marion Elaine Robinson, where darkness seemed to seep through every crack. His childhood was not one of joy or innocence, but of fear. Gacy's mother was a housewife, and his father was a repair mechanic and a war hero, decorated for his service in World War II. But at home, his medals meant little. His rage consumed the household. He was an alcoholic, and John, who struggled to gain his father's approval, was often the target of verbal abuse and physical violence, the echoes of his father's shouts ringing out in the dead of night. Gacy's earliest childhood memory is his father beating him at age of 4 for accidentally disarranging car engine components. His father always compared him with his sisters and frequently made him feel small. Despite the turbulence of his youth, Gacy was determined to live a life that, on the surface, appeared to be a success story.
In light of all that has been used against me in the media, they've created this fantasy monster image, and it's been going on for the last 12 years. And I've ever had no comment, and I had no need to talk to the media for the simple reason that they were looking for sensationalism and they were looking for the monster.
When you say fantasy monster...
He got married, managed a shoe store, and in 1960, at the age of 18, rose through the ranks of local politics. His charm and social skills earned him respect and recognition. But there was something else that also earned him attention: an alter ego. In 1975, Gacy adopted a new persona, Pogo the Clown. With his face painted white and his smile exaggerated with crimson red, he performed at children's parties, community events, and even in local hospitals. Behind the makeup, he found a way to disguise himself as something joyful and innocent, but no amount of paint could conceal the darkness that he held beneath.
The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people are, they unwind in different ways, either by going out drinking or that. I could put on clown
Part-time
makeup
clown performing at charity events and children's parties.
The echoes of his darkest imaginations and abusive childhood. The cracks in Gacy's mask began to show as early as 1968, when he was convicted of sexual harassment with a teenage boy in Iowa. Despite being sentenced to 10 years in prison, his time behind bars was cut down to just 18 months due to his model prisoner status. He emerged from prison a changed man, but not in the way society had hoped. Upon his release, Gacy moved into a seemingly ordinary suburban house in Norwood Park. To his neighbors, he was the model of a good citizen, a friendly man who threw barbecues and lent tools to anyone who asked. But beneath the surface of this picturesque facade lay the truth, an unthinkable horror hidden under the floorboards, a man capable of doing horrors that no one could imagine. The dark reality revealed. Gacy had a method, a disturbing routine that lured young men to their doom. He often posed as an employer, offering work to teenagers and young men down on their luck. Once inside, the doors locked and the atmosphere changed. He would perform magic tricks, using handcuffs or ropes. The tricks always ended with him holding the power and the victim helpless. He would rape his victims, sexually assaulting them while having all the control, and then brutally killing them in cold blood that no one could ever imagine. For many of his victims, Gacy was the last person they would ever see. Their voices silenced in a basement that held more than just secrets. It held death.
John Wayne Gacy, nicknamed the Killer Clown, killed as many as 33 young men and boys and buried many of them in the crawl space at his suburban Chicago home. Monday morning, detectives finally identified
But authorities say
Francis
he was
Wayne
luring
Alexander.
victims back to his suburban Chicago home, where he would drug and sexually assault them before killing them.
The crawl space beneath Gacy's home became a mass grave. With at least 26 bodies buried in the confined, darkened area, their remains wrapped in plastic sheeting like disposable objects. Each body represented a life cut short, a life that Gacy saw as nothing more than an inconvenience to be hidden away and the target to his sinister and wicked imaginations. In December 1978, the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Peast would become the thread that unraveled Gacy's tapestry of lies. The boy was last seen leaving his workplace, telling his mother he was meeting a contractor about a job. That contractor was John Wayne Gacy. But when the time passed and he didn't come back home, his mother filed a police complaint, reporting him missing. The investigation into Gacy quickly gained momentum, and it was revealed that Gacy has a criminal background and was imprisoned for sodomy of a 15-year-old boy. When Kozenchak and two Des Plaines police officers visited his home the following evening, and he claimed that he did not offer any job to Peast and left after 8 p.m. But later, when Gacy arrived at the police station covered in mud, and the alibi he had denied the events, suspecting that he might be involved in this, police conducted a search warrant and found several suspicious items like police BDs, a starting pistol, a syringe and hypodermic needle, handcuffs, and book about homosexuality, pornography films, and so many more objects that were proof of his wicked reality. Gacy confessed his crime by stating that this boy is dead, he's dead, he is in the river. He continued giving a confession in the early hours of morning on December 20th. He stated that he had been the judge, the jury, and executioner of many, many people, and that he now wants the same for himself.
I had to stand at the door and let them know which politicians were allowed in and which ones weren't.
Alexander's remains were among 26 sets that police found in the crawl space at Gacy's home.
As the news broke, the nation grappled with the reality of what had occurred in their midst. Protests erupted, demanding justice not just for Gacy's victims, but for a system that allowed such a predator to roam free for so long. Gacy's trail started on February 6, 1980. He spent 300 hours with doctors before his trail. He convinced the doctors that he had multiple personality disorders. Psychologists and criminologists studied Gacy's behavior extensively, attempting to understand what drove him to kill.
At the time, this young individual made the charge at me. He was blackmailing me. He wanted more and more money. He said, "Look, I gave you a blowjob. Now you got to pay for this." I said, Go see your father. He wasn't getting along with his father.
Many pointed to his tumultuous childhood, suggesting that early trauma, child abuse, and neglect might have played a pivotal role in his transformation from victim to predator, while the trails continued. On March 11th, after 4 hours closing, Gacy's Kuzel gave remarks, driven by compulsion. He was unable to control. It was proved that the way he executed crimes and planned everything logically, he is not insane, and he was sentenced to death for each murder committed after Illinois state on capital punishment came into effect in June 1977. His execution was set on June 2, 1980. Books, documentaries, and films would later explore Gacy's life, turning him into a figure of both morbid fascination and horror. The Killer Clown became a pop culture icon, inspiring horror films, true crime shows, and countless discussions about the nature of evil. The other films included To Catch a Killer in 1992, Gacy in 2003, the Discovery Channel broadcast, and so much more.
We have a shot of all of the victims together here. And we've gone over this more than once. They're just names and faces. And when you look at them,
The impact of Killer Clown on victims and families. For the families of Gacy's victims, the nightmare never truly ended. They were left to grapple with the loss of their loved ones while coming to terms with the brutal reality of their deaths. Many sought to honor their memories, determined to ensure that their names would not be forgotten. Memorials were established, allowing friends and family members to remember those stolen away too soon.
A nonprofit organization called the DNA Doe Project was able to link up a DNA profile and create a family lineage using websites like Family Tree DNA.
just like I consider myself the 34th victim, I consider the families victims as well, because they did not get justice.
In the aftermath of Gacy's crimes, efforts for change were initiated, advocating for better communication and cooperation between law enforcement agencies and stronger measures to protect vulnerable populations. Gacy's case also sparked crucial discussions about mental health and its role in violent behavior. Experts urged for a reevaluation of how society views and treats mental illness, emphasizing the need for resources and interventions before tragedies unfold.
Hey, I got news for you. I killed 33 times. You're only gonna kill me once. Gacy outsmarted him again.
In the years following his execution, various community programs emerged to educate parents and children about recognizing danger and establishing safe environments. Awareness became paramount as the haunting question lingered: could we have seen the signs? As we reflect on the chilling legacy of John Wayne Gacy, we must confront the uncomfortable truth that evil can hide in plain sight. Gacy's story serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human behavior and the fragility of trust in our communities. While John Wayne Gacy was ultimately brought to justice, the scars he left on his victims' families and the broader community remain. The darkness he cast over Chicago and beyond is a testament to the need for vigilance and compassion in our interactions with others. Thank you for joining us as we explored the chilling life and crimes of John Wayne Gacy. If you found this episode intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into the dark corners of history. Your support helps us continue uncovering these haunting tales. Leave a comment below with your thoughts and any topics you want us to explore next. Together, let's keep the conversation going about the shadows lurking beneath our surface.